Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Today, I'm in conversation with my colleague, Venu Subramania Iyer. Venu, who started his career as a systems engineer, shares how he moved from hardware, support, to software, and then to testing. And he also shares some stories about how he used to isolate problems and solve them when he was a hardware service engineer using just two tools, a multimeter and a CRO, and how he was able to adapt to a problem resolution approach from a designer inventor aspiration, essentially from being an R&D person to getting a service mindset. He also talks about moving to an automotive company as the first independent test engineer and how he grew this team to over 200 in about 10 years. He also shares his approach to personal scaling by investing and developing others, and how he took up a delivery role to get an experience on the right side of the V model. How about taking up a delivery role to get the experience of both sides of the traditional V model of testing. Listen on. Hi, Venu. Welcome to the Software People Stories.
Thank you, Shiv. It is a wonderful opportunity for me to tell about myself and my story.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm all ears. I'm waiting to listen to your story.
Yes,
And as you know, our format is we start with a self-introduction,
yes,
and you can talk about your story and also your career trajectory in terms of all the things that you've done. And
yes.
that should trigger my curiosity, and we'll have conversation around that.
Nice. Yeah, so basically, I can introduce myself as a system engineer. I think you call this a software people story. So I am a person with a kind of different background, actually. So yeah, I'm a system engineer, started with the hardware, software, testing, delivery, etc. So basically, I was born in Kerala. So I think southern part of Kerala. I think it's people call us a ghost town country. Yeah, so I born there. Most of my childhood memories are in Kerala. So there's a place called Alleppey. I think you heard about Alleppey, correct? Where a lot of backwaters are there. Yeah, so that's a time and the place I had education till 5th standard. So I had a very nice childhood memories in Alleppey. Then I came to Kottayam. So my father was in a kind of a government service. So he used to transfer every 2 years. He used to travel across all over Kerala. So after I born, it was stopped actually, but it was a good experience. I had my education till ending only. So my schooling was in a kind of a government school, and then I took a PUC, and then in a government engineering college, Kottayam. So I took electrical engineering as a kind of main subject there. Yeah. So overall, my passion started for engineering my early career. So I had one of my uncle who was an engineer. So that's where the interest for engineering started. So it was a quite long journey or a difficult journey to achieve that at that time, due to various reasons at time because of education, financial background, and also other factors.
Yeah, wonderful. I recently had an opportunity to visit Alleppey. I
Yes.
was in a place called Kayamkulam.
Yes, it is nearby. Yes.
Alleppey, and then those backwaters, the boat ride, and the
Yes.
Onam race is supposed to be also
Yes,
conducted
yes.
there, right? Yeah, wonderful.
Yes,
place.
yes. Wonderful place actually.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. We've had a few guests in the past who
Yes.
have had a hardware background or had a hardware software background.
Yes.
My interest when I was doing engineering was in hardware.
Yes.
And my project was also in hardware.
Good,
And
good.
there was a friend of mine who got me into software, and then it so turned out that his career was in hardware. He
Yes.
got into hardware and I got into software.
Yes.
So when you say a systems engineer
Yes,
and hardware software,
yes.
how do you go about identifying a solution and decide what will be in hardware, what will be in software?
Basically, when I started the engineering degree itself, it is not even hardware. It was pure electrical engineering that time. So my passion was more into electrical engineering. We started with the interest in designing the power system, designing the electrical machineries, designing high voltage engineering. That was my core passion actually. So my coming into the system engineering itself is an accident, if you ask me. I was dreaming about joining a company like BHEL or joining some electricity board, etc. during that time. So due to various reasons, I could not get any of this company that time because of limited opportunities. So that is the time I got into this kind of hardware engineering job in one of the multinational company like Philips. So it is not a kind of design job I got first time. It was more of a kind of troubleshooting. So I could say my first job was a kind of customer service engineer to service the television systems and DVD systems and audio system. So that is where my system journey started, where this product will fail. It'll come to service centers or it may be in the customer place. Nobody know what's the reason. The symptom may be like no audio, it is not switching on, or it is continuously rebooting, like that. And then we need to attack where is the issue. So it was more of a system thinking to find where is the issue. We don't have any clue. So what you have in front of me was only a kind of service manual. So Philips has given all of us a kind of good training for us, all the engineers, before we put in the field. So we have a kind of service manual, which is around 10 pages about power supply, about the control signals, about the audio path, etc. And we need to systematically address based upon symptoms. So we need to follow a particular workflow, how to attack this problem in a systematic way. That's where my first experience with the system started actually. So we don't know where is the issue. It's a simple user interface issue or a simple issue with respect to some functionality issue. But how to get into the systematic issues in a systematic way. Sometimes issue can be hardware. That time it was more of a hardware issue, but now I can see a lot of issues. Nowadays hardware never fail actually. Everything is stable for a period of time. Everything is stable. Yeah. The issue is mainly in software nowadays. So it was a kind of experience. I started with that consumer electronics company where fixing the bug in a kind of board level. So I used to debug. I have only two tools that time. I had one multimeter. I had a CRO, nothing else. Okay. Like these are the two tools like a doctor when you see the patient. So I need to see the board in various circuitry, what's the voltage, what is the signal, and then finally arrive at a place which causes the issue and then try to rectify it. So it's a kind of complete exploration actually. We don't know what is the background. And slowly you find what is the symptom. Then we have a guideline available, what to do next, and finally we find the issue. So that experience really helped me to think the issues in a big picture, then slowly narrow down to the issue where it is really causing the issue. That was really nice. I did for around 3 years. I did it in the kind of field actually. Yeah. That was the experience with the system engineering first. So even though it was not a career which I wanted to do, but somehow over a period of time, I got love with this job of system engineering. And then maybe I'll tell you how it happened, the further transition to different career interest happened after that. Yeah.
So one question here.
Yes.
See, in engineering,
yes,
we are normally trained or taught
yes,
to design things, to do things new.
Yes.
And also with all the enthusiasm, at least I had that saying that I'm going to change the world and we're going to invent new things and all that.
Yes.
So with that kind of a mindset,
yes,
to get into a more structured way, like you said, about debugging or trying to isolate the problem or identify the problem.
Yes.
How was that transition for you?
So it was quite challenging initially. See, normally in engineering, we never think in this way. Maybe when you do a project, it was more of a design. I have some idea how do I translate this idea into a solution, maybe circuit or some kind of programming, etc. It was never a focus of debugging. Debugging happens at the end of the day. When nothing fails, something will do. It's a profession in my life actually. But fortunately, it was a kind of other way. The career started with that area where troubleshooting was a main job. So that really helped me to even solve the issues even in the professional life and personal life. It gives a lot of courage actually. So normally in life, normally we have a lot of, whenever you get an issue, you get fed up, correct? So when you have a problem, how do I solve it? You will have some kind of tension, even in a professional life or in a personal life. But by having this kind of experience in the early life, sometimes the people will be standing near to me until I service and give the board to them in a good condition.
Mhm.
And it was all of high-end television, like a plasma television or a kind of LCD television, where the customers are of high profile. So even if it's a mistake, even it is come back after 1 month, they will always be very upset actually. And even I had experience of even visiting a consumer court that time. So whenever there's an issue which was not solved correctly, sometimes what happens is due to various reasons, the solution may not be right. You may replace some kind of component. Sometimes it may come again after 1 month. And they may file a complaint against the company in consumer forum. In that case, I need to even visit the consumer forum, represent the company, what we have done for quality, what work we have done, how it is good, and we will ensure the quality in future. If there are issues, we will take care of financing those solutions, etc. So in the first 2-3 years was a kind of completely challenging, not only technical, but also from the leadership perspective, organizing your work perspective, talking to different stakeholders, talking with the production team, talking with the sales team. So it was a kind of very good exposure I got from early career, even though some of my friends told, oh, it's not a good profession. Service means, yeah, it's a low class job. It's a second grade job. Why do you want to go? You need to go to R&D. But I never felt like that point of time. The kind of challenges what you face in service industry is also extremely important, because at the end of the day, that is something which will keep the end customer happy for the next purchase or the next service. So it was really nice to get a very good customer-centric thinking, which I got from that first job. Yeah.
Wonderful. There are a couple of questions which I will hold back
Yes.
and then ask you maybe a little later.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
what happened after that?
So after that, what happened is I think that's the time the 2000 early the Y2K issue was coming, and then everybody wanted to come to IT industry. Even I was also part of that race. Yeah, I also need to come to the IT industry because the growth of hardware engineer was also not so good at that point of time, and I was not getting opportunity in other core electric area. That's the time I got a job in a kind of same company but a software part. And they hired me as a hardware engineer again. I wanted software in the job, but they hired me as a hardware engineer. But there, working as a hardware engineer, I work with the test engineers also as a kind of, during my debugging, testing engineers also be part of it. So while working with those people, I found that that is a very nice career. And with my system thinking background, it was very good actually. So then I realized that software testing is my passion. That was the thinking or the area which I really wanted to do. So then I have taken a very clear goal actually. Yeah, I need to get my career into software testing or a system testing. So that time I even worked in weekends in the lab along with the test engineers, and I used to find defects and give it to them, some critical defect,
Okay.
and then they used to file actually. So that was the time I used to learn this. Then I have attended some training in software testing. So that's the time I think you heard about something called ISTQB, International Software Test Qualification Board.
Yeah.
And testing was not so structured that time. Yeah. So testing was evolving, and there was no proper body of knowledge where we can educate people in the testing. So I got exposure there through one of my friend, and I did my kind of certification there, ISTQB foundation level. So where it gave me a very clear approach on testing as a career, what we should do, what are the different methodologies, what are the different strategies we should use in various situations. And that is where I learned a lot of test aspect as a kind of part-time, doing a hardware job, but learning testing as a kind of part-time or a side business. At some point of time, I wanted to become a test engineer in my own company, but that time, due to various reasons, I could not get it. And fortunately, I got an opportunity to become a test engineer in a very automotive company. I think Robert Bosch, I think that is one of the big companies at the time. So I could proudly say that I was the first independent test engineer in that company, actually, in Bangalore.
Oh,
So that is where the companies were trying to hire testing team. And typically, we have a mentality of development team don't want to do testing, right? So, and if you wanted to have a testing team, we need to have an independent testing team. So that's the time the company was thinking how to establish a kind of testing team independently to grow up. So fortunately, I got a break there. So even though I never had any software testing hands-on experience, somehow I could crack the interview. The interviewer was very happy with whatever test techniques or methods I could crack in the interview. And then I could get that job. And that was, I would say, one of the turning points in my career itself, to become the independent test engineer for a automotive car multimedia product. Basically into software testing of car radios that time, very early phase. So today car radios are very complex. That time we had only a small functionality of tuner functionality, AM, FM, or a simple playback of audio, video, media, etc. So that was the challenge. We started from there. And then there was a big career in front of me in testing. So it was so good, actually. It was a struggle initially to get into this testing career, but it was nice.
yeah. See, the role of a tester is actually very critical.
Yes.
And when you said that you were the first independent test engineer,
Yes.
I can imagine that you were probably like a lone ranger, trying to.
Yes. So initially it was a lone ranger initially. So I was not knowing what to do. And even though I had learned testing, but hands-on experience was missing. So one good thing happened was I had an opportunity to visit Germany. So that time headquarters, the testing department was headed in Germany. So I visited there and I was there working there for around 1 year. So that was a very tremendous experience. I tested the software in the lab benches, in the car, and also in the field by taking the system into various countries. So
Wow.
I
All
got
those autobahns.
Yes, autobahns. We should test the car reception, navigation, how it works, etc. in various places under the tunnel, the areas where power supplies lines are more. There are areas where we have a confusion on the road traffic. So the entire software get loaded into that kind of environment, how it is working in RF side and also from navigation side. So it was a very good experience for 1 year. Then I had to come back to India. Then the challenge in front of me is make a team from 1 to 10 in 3 months. That was the task in front of me. Then I had to hire a team, have a lot of interviews. So that time it was very difficult to get people with this background because we get people with a testing background, but we also need people with interest in electronics. So it is a kind of knowledge about the electronics domain plus testing background. So it was a challenge, but we could get some good people initially, some 3-4 people. And later these 3 people became a pillar of this big team. And at some point of time, after 10 years, this 1-person team became a department of 200 actually. So that was the growth and the kind of exposure what we got there, which I really cherish in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question I have is, you talked about different scenarios under which you needed to test.
Yes.
I am assuming that this requires both a domain knowledge
Yes.
as well as the conditions under which your solution is going to be used.
Correct. Exactly.
So, as a person who is coming from a different background,
Yes. Yes.
how were you able to understand this quickly and apply it to enhance your role?
Yeah. So basically, since the first job was mainly into hardware, the domain understanding 50% already available because I could understand the RF domain. I could understand this audio video domain. I could understand this communication domain. So these are very critical. So any multimedia product, these 3-4 things are very critical. So since I was working in television and DVD system, so the domain understanding was already there. Sometime, if you want to find defects at system level, I would say the domain understanding is more required compared to a software development. So it is more of a domain understanding which will help you to find defects. Of course, you need to understand the software test techniques. So what are the different conditions or what are the different inputs or what are the different environment we should test it. That is there. But the domain plays a big part when you test this kind of embedded system. So it's a combination of domain understanding plus the scientific methods available in the software testing. So we need the blend of both actually to become a good tester. But sometimes we don't get a tester having experience in both the domains. Sometimes I have taken engineers from healthcare system also who tested ultrasound and machine. That's okay. But they have a very critical mindset or a safety mindset available. So we train them in their domain and they become a good tester. I also had a testers who doesn't have any testing background like me, but have a very good domain knowledge. So we teach them test techniques. So the team is built up with the people with both sides. So that way, we get a good team with a complementary skill. So we don't have people with only one skill. There are multiple skills. So it depends upon the project and the context. We all support each other. So that was the kind of strategy which I adopted in my hiring that time.
One thing I've noticed among most of the testers
Yes.
is an extremely high sense of ownership.
Yes.
Because they feel that they cannot miss something because after
Yeah.
them game
Yes.
is actually going out to the users.
You get personally insulted if you get a bug.
Right.
That- Yeah.
So in that kind of say style of working,
Yes.
when you were doing things as an individual contributor
Yes.
and you said you had to ramp up a team very quickly,
Yes.
how difficult or easy was it for you?
Yeah, it was very difficult. It was very difficult because after working for 5 years hands-on, then it's a different ball game. So you can't test everything, every product, every project. So it is no more about yourself. So I've done 1 year testing. That story is over. Now the company is looking for in a larger scale. So you can't scale by yourself alone. So then one thing which I focused is transfer the knowledge, whatever practical experience you have to the new people. Then empower them completely. Then you get into kind of consulting mode, not giving solution. Let them make a mistake and come with the question. So I used to encourage people to ask questions. So we give a fundamental domain training, fundamental testing training. Then I leave it to them. They may make mistakes. So initially, we also had a situation where escalation happened normally as a part of growth. So the testing quality may not be so good initially because team is also new. So we also had a customer escalation. But then our customers also very cooperative. So they also send experts to India. So it was kind of a strategy where our engineer goes to Germany for some kind of practical experience. Their engineer comes to India to give some kind of orientation and mentoring. So, and then it was more of a kind of team management rather than doing everything by myself. So it was a kind of good learning. So I learned in a very hard way. So it was not come naturally. So, but then once I realized that it's not more about my individual testing knowledge, it is more of a collective testing knowledge by the complete team. So everybody has to play their role actually. Yeah. So only thing is we need to find out some good people in the team who is passionate. That is very difficult. So the hiring the initial team is extremely critical. We need that 3-4 leaders who are passionate about doing things. Then it's a multiplier effect. 1 become 3, then 3 become 9, then 9 become 90, 90 become 200, etc. So that is what we should do, the kind of chain reaction. So some people we need to identify, empower them, and then they need to run their project. It will grow like that. So basically, I use the strategy, make a chain actually, a chain of leads to propagate this knowledge and the sharing of knowledge, plus experience share.
Very nice. So just to extend this
Yes.
sharing of knowledge,
Yes.
this is something that I've always wondered how best it can be done. Because testing
Yes.
is usually a lag activity.
Yeah, it comes after development. Yes.
So you always say that building the right thing or building quality in, etc.
Yes.
So in this education or training people, etc.,
Yes.
have you experimented with creating that skill or knowledge among the developers also or the designers?
Yes, it is happens in both the sides. So what happens is, sometime what happens is our testers will participate in kind of developer training also. So for example, when developers attend some unit testing training, so our tester also will help them to identify some test scenarios. Similarly, we also invite developer also into our training program sometime. But sometime what happens is a tester, he tend to think only in a black box mindset actually, only at a system level or a functional level.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes what happens is to find some critical defect. You cannot limit yourself. Yeah. Okay. So basically the training, how we collaborate with the developers and the tester. So initially the focus was more on the functionality of a product. So normally tester never think about implementation, structural, how it is constructed, etc. Yeah. So we tend to think only as a kind of black box. But then later I realized that we can't have one kind of strategy in finding defect. So sometimes it also help having the knowledge about structure, knowledge about implementation, also will help to find certain defect faster, especially in certain critical issue. If you know how it is implemented, then you can directly trigger a test cases instead of trying a lot of things. So we use that kind of approach. So that also we have experimented actually. So in that cases, there are cases where we ask software developer to inject some defect intentionally in the software, and then we give that software to tester.
Okay.
So the tester is able to find the defect early, something like that. So that kind of experiment also we have done actually. Creating a defect in a product and then try to see how many of them a tester is able to find it. So it is not just theoretical training. We also give some this kind of practical training to find out systematically where is the issue and then detect those things. Yeah.
So was there any more transition in your career after that?
Yeah. So after that, by becoming a testing and then I became a test manager. Then I was leading a testing group around 100 people there. Then I also made one transition to a startup company. So there was a company called Prism Displays. So that display company was manufacturing a lasting display with the size of a big room kind of thing. So there I have helped to establish a testing practice from scratch and until the mass production. That was around 2.5 years. And then I made a career transition to a kind of a delivery role actually. So I thought with the background of service, with the background of testing and quality assurance, I got a good idea about the right-hand side of the V. Why don't we get a good exposure to full V? The entire life cycle, how it goes, what challenges we are facing. That is where I took a role of a delivery manager or a project manager. So I also played the role of a project manager at the time. And that's the time I had an association with the PM Power also. So in 2005, PM Power was the trainer for us in Robert Bosch. Okay. So that's the time I got a fundamentals of project management by some of our eminent experts in PM Power. And then I thought, okay, project management is also one of the passionate area. So, and then I became a delivery manager. In my previous company, I was a kind of delivery head actually. So all the project management and program managers reported to me globally for a platform project and the customer programs. So that was a kind of different scale of operation. Testing, we think in terms of one side of V, whereas now you need to understand the business side, understand the customer side, understand the entire software lifecycle part. At the same time, ensure the quality, ensure on-time delivery. So that's a different challenge. So because I also wanted to challenge myself, I don't want to limit myself only to one area, but try to understand the entire product lifecycle experience through which because of this experience, yeah, I got good experience there. Yeah.
So from your experience,
yes,
would you think that having testing as a completely independent function,
yes,
is better than, say, testing being embedded as part of the development team?
Yeah, so I think this is a tricky question. Yeah, it is also an important question. We need to find an answer. Yeah.
I asked him his view on whether testing should always be independent or can it be embedded in the software development process and the developer roles. The answer to that question and a lot more in the next episode.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
If you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.